What if you break into an influential man's house and find a man trapped in a room, but before you can help him, you get caught? Now, your mom went to the police to report you missing, and her suspicions about the suspect, but they can't arrest him because he is powerful. With no other choice, your mom breaks into his house to investigate herself. Welcome to What a Story. The story opens with Toby and Jay, young graffiti delinquents, who break into another elite London resident, placing their logo on the wall. The primary objective is to demonstrate to these more privileged segments of society that they are also unsafe in their own houses. Before making their final exit, the pair then changes into regular clothing. A police car passes Toby as he walks to the train station to go home. He pickpockets a business person who despises beggars, and then claims to have found the wallet. He receives a financial incentive from the man, which he subsequently offers to the beggar. The young man arrives home, and quietly opens the door not to wake his mother. While this happens, their unsuspecting victim brings a woman home, only to find his wall has been vandalized. The following day, Jay performs his landscaping work, trimming some of London's elite gardens. He also used it to assess potential targets for later attacks. To get in, he uses the pretext that he needs to use the bathroom. Before moving to the living room, to snap a picture of the Wi-Fi router's information, he looks for a better target idea. Sir Hector, a former judge, enters to inquire about what he is doing. Before being shown the bathroom, Jay comments on the picture of his father. He provides the information to Toby, who launches his investigation right away. Later, at home, Jay shows his girlfriend the judge's home and says he hopes they will one day be able to purchase something similar. She recognizes his name when he says it to her. Her university tutor's classmate was the judge. Even today, Hector is renowned for his charitable activities for refugees. Then, she announces that she is expecting. Jay and Toby have coffee together in a nearby cafe. As he enters, he starts excitedly sharing the details he learned about Hector. Toby defends their behavior if they break into the judge's home, since he knows he is not the good guy people believe him to be. Jay enthusiastically announces that he can no longer engage in these risky activities because his girlfriend Naz is expecting a child. Despite his friend's best efforts to convince him otherwise, Jay is set on stopping. He has chosen family above jail. Lizzie, Toby's mother, conducts a therapy session with a client. Later, she returns home to a chaotic and noisy residence. Toby is observing a well-known YouTuber's response to their most recent break-in. He is now more motivated to visit the judge's home. Toby seems uninterested when Lizzie complains about her inability to locate the remote control again. She asks him to clean up the kitchen as he departs, but he puts it off until later. Hector leaves his home to play some squash. As soon as it is safe to enter, Toby enters the compound, and disables the internet using the Wi-Fi information to switch off the security system. He starts a timer on his watch, before picking the lock on the back door, almost being seen by a neighbor but succeeding in getting inside. He wanders around, looking for the ideal location to place the graffiti, and discovers it in the living room. As he adjusts Hector's father's portrait, he hears an unusual sound, and he investigates. This leads him to the basement, where he is relieved to discover that a table fan is making a noise. While William takes a break from playing, Hector checks his phone. After getting a notification that his internet and home security are down, he quickly ends the game to go check. William offers to send several cops to look for him back at the house, because he works as a superintendent for the police department, but he declines. Toby searches the basement, and finds old photos, but he drops them when he is startled. While he picks them up, he finds a secret door and looks through the hole. He reclines in disbelief at what he observes inside. At about the same moment, Hector returns home and hurries inside to access his security and internet. He searches the entire house, including his secret door, for indications of a home invasion. He starts to inspect his father's painting, but a friend's call diverts his focus. This gives Toby a chance to exit the door. Hector senses this and goes to the door but sees no one there. Toby lies in front of the garden. Meanwhile, Naza's family sends her out because she has become pregnant. The disappointed couple travels home, where a shaken-up Toby meets them. He tries to get advice from his best buddy about what he witnessed in the basement, but Jay doesn't allow him the time to express his worry, because he's dealing with his own issues, so he rejects him. He calls the police on his way home, using a public phone to report what he observed in the basement. The following morning, Hector turns up the volume while eating breakfast, and watching cartoons to block out the sound from the basement. The cops arrive at the ex-judge's door, to search briefly in response to Toby's tip. The young man hides close to the home and waits anxiously to see what happens. As the officers head inside to inspect the basement, Hector subtly intimidates them. He warns them that their supervisor will learn about their actions. One of the cops peeks into the basement, and discovers a rattling washing machine. Toby is frustrated as they leave the residence, after a cursory investigation, and finding nothing strange. Hector is now sure that someone visited his home that evening, and saw his sinister secret. He now notices that the portrait had been moved and fixes it. A dissatisfied Toby returns home and sleeps, only to be awakened by his mother banging on his room door. They have a heated argument regarding his way of life. As he brings up his dead father during the debate, he receives a slap. In the end, Toby said that Lizzie should not wait for him anymore, because he won't return. He becomes frustrated and slams the TV remote against a wall, then returns to Hector's residence. With a cricket bat in the passenger seat, the former judge laid his trap. He pretends to depart, but before heading back, waits for a notification on his phone indicating his security system is down. Meanwhile, Toby enters the basement and starts working on unlocking the hidden door. When the frightened man hides in the corner, he explains that he's there to help him escape. As they exit the basement, a shadow of Hector appears near the door. Toby quickly returns to the basement, and sends the man back to his cell before slipping into a locker.
I'm getting you out of here, okay?
Hector searches the home with his cricket bat for the offender. He moves down to the basement to see how his prisoner is doing. He remarks on him peeing himself again. Toby emerges, gets a hammer, and rushes to strike, but he trips on the urine and falls. Initially surprised, Hector immediately regains composure and swings the bat at Toby. He later mutilated him, and burned the evidence in an incinerator. He pours the ashes down the toilet and flushes it. Lizzie calls Jay and the police, who begin a missing persons report, when 3 days go by without her hearing from Toby. Based on how he responds to Detective Ella's queries, Lizzie feels that Jay knows something, but he denies it. Later on, he attempts Toby's line but receives no response. Jay travels to Hector's house, where he takes up a letter from the mailbox, and looks inside to uncover a lead. Police officers who have responded to reports from some neighbors, soon approach him. After discovering contraband in his car, they detain Jay. His prior offenses are mentioned while he is in police custody, but he is eventually let go after making his case to one of the police officers. To his amazement, they deliver his belongings, including the letter he stole. Jay opens it in front of the station, but it is merely a letter from a school. He sneaks into Toby's home to hide the letter, which wakes Lizzie. Rushing in, she assumes it's her son but is disappointed to discover Jay. During their conversation, Jay tells her about his girlfriend's pregnancy. As the conversation returns to Toby, he tells her about a hidden drawer. Lizzie discovers the letter Jay planted. She thinks that's strange, so she brings it to the cop the next day, who cross-references it with Toby's earlier call. She informs Lizzie that she will be kept informed if anything changes. The investigator begins assembling the data. Hector's home is raided once more, but they claim life is in danger this time. He takes them to his basement when they arrive at his property, where they thoroughly check the area and discover his secret room. As they unlock it, they only find emergency supplies, but Ella notices the door has a peephole outside that faces inside. When she tries to inquire about it,
Is that all you got?
he briefly reveals his true character. She arrests him for obstructing an officer. As they load him into the car, he observes Lizzie standing outside. Due to his friendship with the superintendent at the station, he was released. Later, Ella calls Lizzie to let her know the case has been closed. She later searches Toby's hidden drawer and discovers a pen drive. She tries to open the file, but it has a password. In the meantime, the ex-judge picks Omid, an Iranian refugee, as his next victim after becoming friends with him at the gym. He entices him to his house by promising to assist him with his asylum application. Omid was welcomed into Hector's house. He adds a substance to his drink, while telling a story of an Indian Persian lad, who was adopted by his father and treated like a family member, and a lover. Her mother was sent to the guest room while his father welcomed him into his bed. Hector's mother committed suicide because she could no longer handle it. He strongly disliked boarding schools, because he had been shipped as a young child. Omid begins to experience the side effects of the medications but escapes by climbing through a window. Fortunately for him, Lizzie is on watch and is aware of everything. Hector tries to pull him back inside, but she stops him by flashing her lights, allowing Omid to flee in her direction. The next morning, Jay stops by to see how Lizzie is doing but becomes concerned when he learns she has been stalking Hector. She tells him what happened the night before, and that Omid doesn't want to go to the police, since it might affect his asylum case. Afterwards, Hector meets Omid and offers his apology. He promises to move his case further if he talks to him. Later, the ex-judge is spotted in the basement with Omid's phone, scrolling through his messages. There are sounds of slamming and shouting coming from the secret cell. He selects Lizzie's name from the phone and searches online, discovering that Toby is her son. Equipped with his information, he sets a trap for Lizzie by allowing her to see where he hides his keys. After getting hold of the pen drive, Lizzie confronts Jay about his and Toby's work as taggers. He begs to put it all behind him, but Lizzie requests that he assist her in breaking into Hector's home so that they can discover the truth. She becomes frustrated when he declines and states that his family comes first. In the meantime, Jay and Naz's relationship is beginning to suffer from all the secrecy.
Fuck off!
Not realizing it's a trap, Lizzie breaks into Hector's residence alone. She walks upstairs to look for clues, but when she comes down, Hector is already there. During a brief battle, she nearly manages to flee, but Lizzie is ultimately taken prisoner by him. In the basement, he binds her to a pole and disposes of Omid's body in front of her. When she asked about Toby, he said he flushed his ashes down the toilet. After he killed her, Lizzie's driver's license was found burning in the furnace. Jay later receives the drive with Lizzie's investigation on Hector. When he doesn't hear from her, he heads to her residence. She hasn't been home for a long time, based on the state of the house. He goes to Hector's house, but it has been sold. Jay breaks in to look around, but discovers nothing. As he goes into the basement, his greatest fears are realized when he realizes it's too late. Naz has her suitcases packed and is prepared to depart when he returns home. When he starts blaming himself for Lizzie's disappearance, she hugs him. Although Jay is now a single man, he still gets to watch his child. When Naz arrives to pick up his son, he informs him that Hector will be reading her dissertation. Hector will receive a copy from her tutor at a ceremony for the alumni celebration. Later, Hector Blake is honored at the university for his efforts and vision. At the school parking lot, Jay is waiting for Hector. After he exits the building, he places Naz's work in the trash before leaving for his new home. Jay follows him. Then, he breaks into his home. Jay sneaks into his bedroom picking up a cricket bat by the door. Jay stumbles on a creaking floorboard as he moves to attack, waking up Hector. Hector deflects Jay's assault with a cushion before grabbing a knife. The two get into a heart-pounding brawl, but Jay prevails. He moves over to the garage and releases an imprisoned man inside. Before departing, he makes a police call. Detective Ella finds Hector tied up, with the notorious slogan sprayed above him when she gets to the scene. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next story.